The Lima Bean Monster. Sammy hated lima beans. He hated them so much that he hadn't eaten a single one in his whole life. His mom told a million different ways to make them. Lima bean soup, lima bean casserole, and lima bean surprise, whatever that was. One night she gave up and made no attempt to hide them at all. Just plain old lima beans. That was the worst. Sammy stared down at them sitting there on his plate and then started right back. "Oh, for heaven's sake," said Mom, "just eat them. They're good for you." Each night, Sammy tried a new way to get rid of those crummy lima beans. He hid them underneath the mashed potatoes or stuffed them with a napkin. Once he tried feeding it his dog, but Blackie was too smart for that. Then he had a brilliant idea. While Mom wasn't looking, Sammy pretended to eat the beans so quickly, stuffed it in the sock. That was just swell, Mom," said Sammy. "Gee whiz, those beans are good for me. I will go outside and play for weeks." At the table, his captain Mom checked the useful places of Sammy's unwanted lima beans, but they were nowhere to be found. Sammy ran out the back door and down the street with a sock full of hot, squishy beans. When he got to the vacant lot at the end of the block, he dug a hole. Sammy tossed the beans in and covered them with dirt. "Heh," snickered Sammy. "I never had to eat lima beans as long as I live." Well, you never guess what Mom made the next night? That's right, more lima beans. "Since you enjoyed them so much last night, I decided to make them again," Mom said happily. Let Mom pile on as many lima beans as she wanted. Sammy had a surefire way to getting rid of them. This time, as Sammy threw the beans into the hole at a vacant lot, his friend Chester walked by. "What you doing, Sammy?" asked Chester. Sammy explained his brilliant method of disposing of one of the vegetables. Chester agreed. It was brilliant. The next night, Chester was tossing his lima beans into the hole right along with Sammy's. Next, news traveled fast, and soon all the kids in the neighborhood were throwing these Brussels sprouts, parsnips, and lima beans down into the hole. Before long, they started bringing out other things they didn't like: ugly birthday sweaters, veiled spelling tests, tap shoes, and even an accordion. Sammy had to draw a line of when Chester tried to throw his baby brother in. One night, there was a huge storm. Snug and warm in his bed, Sammy listened to the thunder grumble and watched the lightning strike across the sky. It struck everything it could find: tall trees, telephone poles, and even the church steeple. By this time, that little mound of dirt innovates in a lot of grown big and tall. The lightning decided to strike that, too. Not one, but twice. All through the night, the mound glowed and glowed and grew until all of a sudden the ground burst open and out crawled a huge, ugly, scary creature. It was as tall as a tree and stank on lima beans and sweaty socks. Yuck. It was the Lima Bean Monster. The monster stomped through the neighborhood, tossing around cars and seething on whole houses. People screamed and ran in different directions to get away from the horrible, stinky monster. "Rah!" It roared and almost stamped on Chester. "Me want some human beans! Help!" cried Chester. "Somebody save us!" At that moment, Sammy was too busy holding his nose and running in the other direction to help hear Chester. The rapaging monster spot Sammy and scoop up his massive paw. His smell breath almost made Sammy faint. "May eat some human beans," he bellowed. "Wait!" cried Sammy. "Don't eat me. I'm too small. Wouldn't you eat someone big?" After examining her thoroughly, the Lima Bean Monster agreed. The ever-helpful Sammy pointed out a science teacher made a first getaway down Elm Street. "Now there's a meal," Sammy said. The monster dropped Sammy, roared down Elm Street, and scooped up Sammy's science teacher. "Eat lots of big human beans," he growled, and proceeded to grab every single grown-up in the neighborhood. "Help!" they pleaded. "We're doomed," hollered Chestad. "What a way to go," wailed the science teacher. "Do something, Sammy," cried Sammy's mom. "Chester, I got an idea," Sammy exclaimed. "First, we got to run out every kid we know." Sammy and Chester got all kids together. They quickly found a circle around the giants. The Lima Bean Monster looked down at them. "Me coming when you learn spots are bigger." He opened wide and prepared to drop Chester's stethoscope, and Sammy cried out, "Okay, everybody, there's only way out. Eat your vegetables." The monster held in 100's tiny little teeth and ugly feet, chomped on his kneecaps and chewed on his arms until they were nothing except the half of the ugly birthday sweater. When it was over, everybody cried, "Hooray for Sammy!" They carried it up and down the street at their shoulders. That night, as Sammy's mom took him in, he asked, "You know what, Mom?" "What's that, dear?" asked Mom. Sammy thought a moment and said, "Lima beans aren't so bad at all, really, Mom. How do you feel about turnips?" "Don't push your luck, Mom." The end.